and I took Lake City by quote-unquote $1 billion in the play-in game.
On the North Idaho Prepcast, we're all about that North Idaho life.
Man, you talk about Wallace and what they've been able to do this year. Quietly just being, the steady stalwart up north in District 1. They've been dominant.
From Bonners Ferry all the way down to Grangeville, we tackle the biggest stories in North Idaho sports.
This Genesee team is for real. We know we saw it last year. They're I think in the driver's seat to repeat.
It's the North Idaho Prepcast with Ryan Scaggs. That's right. Welcome in. It is another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast here on IdahoSports.com, breaking down Districts 1 and 2 week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. We are coming to you live on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel, Facebook page, and X account. You can also listen to the all of our IdahoSports.com Prepcasts, but the North Idaho Prepcast specifically, because that's what show this is. You can listen to that anytime as well at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download and subscribe to podcasts. Enough of seeing my odd-looking face taking up the entire screen. Let's bring in our North Idaho expert. It is Ryan Scaggs. Yo, what's up, Scaggs?
We're talking about breaking stuff down. I had a break and enter today. For the first time ever, this is a bucket list thing that I had to check off. I locked myself out of my house this morning.
Okay.
I have remote start on my car, and I started my car to warm it up to take Owen to school. And we were already rushed because I had to get birthday party invites in his backpack and all that fun stuff. And realized that I didn't have my keys in my pocket when I shut the front door. And so not only is the car running, but the house is locked. So I had to, I remembered yesterday I'd opened my office window and I was like, chances I don't know if I locked it or not upstairs. And so I ended up getting a ladder and looked like probably some thug breaking into my own house, sliding a window open and jumped in through the upstairs window. So this is the B&E edition of the North Idaho Prepcast.
Well, if your home has been burglarized recently, that's something you'll want to turn into your insurance agent for sure. And the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com is brought to you by Cornerstone Insurance Northwest, a local North Idaho-owned independent insurance agency that is built on relationships. Over 125 carrier options to meet any insurance need you or your business may have. Home, auto, life, or commercial, from Airbnbs to airplanes and everything in between. Licensed in Idaho, Washington, Montana, Oregon, and Oklahoma. They've got you covered. Call Ryan at 208-413-4536 or visit them online at cornerstoneinsurancenw.com. All right, the B&E edition of the, a lot of glass breaking on this edition of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. We have had some absolutely wild basketball results from the past week that was. Real quick, before we get to that, we always stop down on wrestling. We covered a lot last night on the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast, our standalone wrestling show we do every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Time on IdahoSports.com, all the same places you're watching the North Idaho Prepcast today. But was there anything you wanted to touch on quickly from the wrestling ranks?
Yeah, how fun it was to do the battle for the paddle. That was an awesome night. I mean, that really was. The wrestling match I thought was an absolute blast to see the student crowds get into it and have a marquee platform for the sport of wrestling on a Friday night when it's normally dominated by basketball games and everything else and center court, you get a wrestling match. That was awesome. I mean, Lakeland's got a great team too, and get a big win over Sandpoint in that match. But just to see wrestling be on the network and all the things with it, and not only just having the match happen, but actually having like a broadcast, that was a pretty cool moment for the sport. And then having the girls matches too. They showed up the two girls matches that we had as well. That kind of just happened out of nowhere because we talked about it on this show. They made it happen, which was awesome. And so I don't know I didn't get a chance to watch Mat Chat yet, so I don't know if there was any talk about what we were able to broadcast on Friday night, but it was pretty darn cool. That was a ton of fun.
Yes, we talked about the battle for the paddle and some of the highlights. I singled out Becker at 175 for Sandpoint, just taking it to Peyton Sardinia in that 14-0 decision. The big upset of the night came right away in the first match at 98 pounds, where Zach Teal from Lakeland was ranked in the IdahoSports.com wrestling rankings, which are dropping later today, by the way. New updated wrestling rankings, team and individual, and pound for pound. But he was upset by Ty Wood from Sandpoint at the 98-pound battle to start it. And so that was another big storyline. And then the fact that we got 2 girls out there to compete. And next year, we're going to push for the full lineup of girls.
Yeah. No, that was awesome. And it was a big weekend for wrestling, too. I mean, you had the Clearwater Classic down in Lewiston. A ton of the small schools very well represented at that tournament. Moscow had a wrestler that crossed the century mark for career wins, which was huge. I mean, there's a lot of good things happening in the sport around the area. And actually, they had a wrestler that was the outstanding wrestler of the Clearwater Classic, too, which was awesome to see. I know Coach Karscallon from Moscow does a great job with that group. And they've had, seeing the rise of that program over the last decade has been great to see, because that thing kind of hung out in the basement for a while, and then Coach Needham took over, and then Coach Karscallon comes in and continues the trend of upward trajectory of that program. And it's a great thing to see Moscow Bear Wrestling, holding their own. And, it helps the 5A IEL as a whole. Lewiston, Lakeland, Moscow, Sandpoint, all going to be represented at the state tournament. And if things hold suit, I think it's going to be better for the sport. But yeah, that tournament, Clearwater Classic, is kind of like the marquee event, Super Bowl for some of the small school guys. You get a chance to finally wrestle some of the 6A kids and 5A kids, and they more than held their own.
Yes, Kellogg took second in the team standings, I believe. So, which was pretty awesome. So, yeah, big headlines from wrestling, and then we'll move on. You had Post Falls go down to the Tiger Grizz Classic over in East Idaho. Meridian just so happened to be there as well. They have been the 2 preeminent 6A wrestling powers the past couple of years on the boys' side. Post Falls wins the team title. Corner Canyon from Utah actually takes second. Meridian finishes third. What does that tell us about state? Well, not a lot, because you had kind of the random Utah team in there muddying up the works a little bit. Seth Martin was a big winner for Post Falls. Damian Hamilton came through with an individual title. Ryder Seguin got knocked off in the semifinals, and so we were looking forward to a finals match with him, but lost to a quality competitor in the semis. So that's really what was going on with Post Falls. And then Clearwater Classic, the other big storyline on the girls' side, Jolie Slider, the hometown kid from Lewiston. She had lost to a freshman from Tri-Valley at the Raleigh Lane Invite. Tri-Valley is down in the Treasure Valley. Charlie Noah, this freshman, beats her at Raleigh Lane. Well, they meet up in the finals at the Clearwater Classic. Jolie gets a little revenge, takes out Charlie Noah. And not only that, but she went up a weight class too.
That's what I was gonna say. I think she switched weight classes just to make that match happen.
Yeah, she sought out where Charlie Noah was going to be wrestling and said, I want it. And so that was awesome for sure. So those were kind of the big wrestling storylines. And then, of course, the battle for the paddle. So let's talk about it. Lakeland and Sandpoint last Friday night at Sandpoint High School. Ryan, you and I were there broadcasting on IdahoSports.com. I even did the Magic Valley Prepcast from the broadcast booth in Sandpoint there on Friday night with Scott Burton. That was kind of fun. So yes, it was a girls basketball game, then the wrestling duels, and then the boys basketball game. And then in between, there was all sorts of spirit competitions. There was a lip sync battle, a rap battle, a boat race across the gym. There was the decibel contest. They got an actual decibel meter reading device and determined which crowd was the loudest. The themes for Sandpoint was fire department, firefighters. Lakeland's theme was FBI. At the end of the night, Lakeland was announced as the big winner of the Battle for the Paddle, 4th year in a row that Lakeland won the title. But really the most important part to me is the fundraising aspect of it, where each school had picked their local charities. Lakeland won the fundraising battle, but then, Parker Subaru gave away, they had a raffle for a brand new Subaru, and that fundraiser alone brought in $115,000 between the two schools. That's just awesome.
Yeah, they got $20 out of me.
Yeah.
I was hoping for my name to be called to get a free car, but that was awesome. Congrats to the lady from Clark Fork that ended up winning the car, which was awesome to see. And no, that was a great night. And you talk about, the local entities that benefited, the charities locally that were centered around a lot of the donations and fundraising programs and stuff, and to see the kids, as a whole, raise, I think it was somewhere north of $38,000 for local charities, just over a couple basketball games and a wrestling match. That was outstanding. I mean, parents of the kids in Sandpoint and Lakeland and those communities around those kids, you got a lot to be proud of. They're every kid was so polite that I walked to, talk to in the hallway and stuff, and they'd see the Idaho sports stuff if we were carrying it in coming in, and they were saying like, oh hey, yeah, we watched this or whatever, thanks for coming. I mean, like as I was leaving, I don't know if you experienced it, but I got thanked by a couple sets of parents and some kids as we were leaving, was thanking us for being there and broadcasting, and it was pretty awesome, pretty special night to be a part of. Finally check that one off the bucket list.
Yeah. In the chat real quick, our good friend Max Oswald from the Bonner County Daily Bee up there in Sandpoint. Good morning. Max, I got to be honest, we were looking all over Sandpoint High Friday night. We were up in that broadcast booth, and we were looking for Max is here somewhere. I'm not sure where he's at, but we were keeping an eye out. Might be a little easier, Ryan, to spot him in Priest River next weekend. We're going to be broadcasting the Grangeville Priest River doubleheader, and so Max says, see you guys soon in Priest River. I'll be there for that matchup with Grangeville. And then here is Travis Tyler, proud parent of Jordan Tyler from Sandpoint Wrestling. Nice seeing you guys on Friday. Yeah. And here's the deal. You'll look at our broadcast schedule, IdahoSports.com, and you'll see the schools we're broadcasting at. And you might wonder, well, hey, how come you always go to this school or you always go to this school? We go where we're wanted. We go where we are welcomed. And so, I mean, bottom line, that's the long and the short of it. So you can check out where we're going by looking at the game streams tab on the homepage at IdahoSports.com. Tomorrow night, Ryan, I'm going to be in Wallace for a girls basketball game between Lakeside and Wallace. And I'm going to be working with the Wallace broadcasting students. They do their own student broadcasts. So I'm just going to go over and kind of work with the students, give them some pointers. And it'll be a lot of fun. It's going to be on IdahoSports.com tomorrow night. Sam Buffington in the chat. He says, I can't wait to work with Skagster. Yeah, you and Sam are going to be in Priest River next Saturday for that double dip.
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I'm assuming he's riding with me too. So nice car ride up the Priest River, and maybe stop at Burger Express on the way home. But yeah, no, it's a cool town, and I'm excited to go up there. First time doing a game up there, and it'll be. I mean, you talk about what that town has had to kind of wade through on the administrative side over the last couple of years, and the success they've had with their athletic programs, in the fall and now in winter is looking very successful too. And that's a big game. I mean, we can go into the girls game whether, but Priest River Grangeville game's got a lot on the line in league standings, and the boys team is on a roll right now too, getting a huge win over St. Mary's. So this Priest River team, they're knocking on the door. They're on the cusp of entering that picture of, are they becoming the new league power or a league power? And, I wholeheartly say, yeah, absolutely. The way that they had success in the football season and the girls sports too. I mean, they're doing something's in the water up there that the success is finally showing up.
Yeah, it's really awesome for sure. Sam says Burger Express always. Yeah, that's a good time. And then Travis says, you are welcome to come up on February 14th, Sandpoint versus Moscow duel. It's senior night. I think the only problem with that, Travis, is that's Valentine's Day. And Ryan and I are both
Scaggs about that one.
Ryan and I are both happily married, and we want to stay that way. So yeah, that's
you score me some ticket or a bill at Joel's or something like that. We'll talk about it if you give me a nice dinner afterwards for my wife.
Yeah. Here is Kelsey Gerkman Tomko in the chat. I'm going to assume she's related to Jordan Tomko, the great sophomore guard for Sandpoint High. It was awesome you guys were there. We had family from Alaska to Arizona watching. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Awesome. Glad to do it. We're going to have to figure out next year our camera, because it was so crazy with the students. They were stomping and clapping and shaking. And every time they did that, our camera would shake and then it would get kind of blurry and it would have to refocus. And so we're going to troubleshoot some stuff on the back end because the atmosphere was just so crazy that every time the fans started clapping or stomping their feet, it messed with our shot a little bit.
And I'll say this. We were in a sauna up there. It was hot. It was like at least 95 degrees in that booth.
Yes. But it was a great time for sure.
It was awesome, but it was warm.
Yes. Okay. So outside of the spirit component of the battle for the paddle, the prevailing storyline that came away from the evening of athletic competition was the boys basketball game. So you had Lakeland win the girls basketball game over Sandpoint 49-41 in the first game. Then you had Lakeland win the wrestling duel. Yeah, like 80 to.
No, it was 50-28.
Yeah, thank you. 50-28. And then the boys basketball team from Sandpoint gets a 51-49 victory over Lakeland, not without a little controversy. So I pulled the final minute of our broadcast. I'm going to show it to you. I'm sure everybody has seen this 1,000 times already, but if you haven't, here's kind of the scenario. We're tied at 49s. Sandpoint's got the ball. There's about 15 seconds left. They take a shot and miss. Will Lisey gets an offensive rebound, puts it back in as time expires. Sandpoint wins. It certainly looked like the shot came after the buzzer, and the video we're going to show you is going to confirm that, which happens sometimes. And then we can talk about kind of the bigger picture. And
I'll say this: I used to officiate high school wrestling when I was in college, and I'll say this: they're not professionals. Like, these guys aren't getting paid full time. Like, they're paid to be there, but at the same time, like, you can't expect them to be 100 for 100 on calls. So, like, this stuff happens. Was it the correct call? Probably not, but you'll see. Like, I'll just preface that way, is that these guys are trying. They got most of the calls right all night, and then the one time that doesn't happen, that's the one that everybody talks about. So,
Okay, so here's me and Ryan Friday night on the call.
Knox Williams is going to inbound under full court pressure here. The inbound to Jones, give it right back to Williams with 5. Williams kicking. Jones is going to line up a 3. It's off the back iron, too strong. The rebound, the putback is not in time. No, that's going to be, no, they count it. They count it.
No way.
They count it.
No way.
They count the basket.
No way.
They count it for Lisey at the buzzer.
Are you kidding me?
To the naked eye, that did not look like it got off in time.
Oh my goodness.
That's it. Sandpoint wins 51-49.
Oh my goodness. I mean, you talk about heroics at the end. I don't know how he could have got it. He got the ball back with under 1 left.
To the naked eye, it did not look like Will Lisey got that off in time. They rule it counts, and Sandpoint wins as time expires. 51-49 the final. Don't believe what it says on our score bug. That was in the fourth quarter.
Unbelievable.
So you can clearly see when we show you that clip, ball was in Will Lisey's hands still as time expired. So here's what I wanted to talk about here. I'm not throwing this on to go, oh, Lakeland got robbed and that official was horrible. But I think there's some teachable moments that can happen from this. The first one is, and any coach will tell you this, if you're on that Lakeland side, and that is a tough way to lose. And who knows? The game probably goes to overtime, and from there, who knows? Lakeland was in control of this game most of the way, and they allowed Sandpoint to get back into it. And so any coach is going to tell you, hey, let's not even make it a decision that the referees have to make down the stretch. Let's just take care of business ourselves. And so that is the first thing that kind of jumped out to me from the Lakeland side of things.
Something I always told my football players was that if you get caught in a game with a team that on paper would appear to be, like, say, an inferior opponent, it doesn't match your record or something like that, you can't catch yourself. Instead of playing to win, you play not to lose. And I think that's what we were seeing a little bit in the fourth quarter. Was Lakeland was tight, started playing not to lose. And we saw the lead go back and forth. I mean, they ping-ponged that lead through the fourth quarter pretty regularly. I don't know exactly how many lead changes we had in that game, but that there was, Lakeland could have had that game in control. I think especially controlling the boards. on the offensive end and on the defensive side of the ball for that matter too. Like the perimeter defense broke down a little bit, and I'll give Sandpoint this. They shot very well from the perimeter. They shot really well from 3-point. And, if you're shooting above average, you've got to be able to recognize and adjust and move out, find the off-ball shooter that's waiting off the extra pass. And Sandpoint did a great job of taking advantage of that. And it paid dividends in the end, and they found themselves, you can't leave it in the referee's hands. Let's just put it that way. If you're in a game where you're leading most of the way, for the meat of that game, Lakeland was in control pretty handily before and after halftime. And they let Sandpoint climb in it late. You got to be able to put away your opponent. Like if you're going to be the better team there, you got to put away your opponent. So you can't complain too much in that situation if you're Lakeland, because you kind of put yourself in that situation.
Yep. And so then, I'm on social media and I'm seeing things about, it's a 3-man officiating crew and they need to start being held accountable for stuff like this. 3-man crews, we can't get this stuff right. And that is true. And I'm sure these officials are going to be, there is a District 1, board of control and District 1 officials that will take the proper action. Social media is not the place to hash this out. And I'm sure those referees feel awful that no referee wants to be involved in something like this. And so publicly shaming the person, to me, is not really conducive to finding a solution. Like it's not productive. So
yeah, and every time you get in that situation where you have to make that tough call. And it's what were the officials? Were they all in the right spot? Did somebody have eyes on the clock? Somebody have eyes on the shooter from behind, a ball in hand to see the backboard light up? That's the benefit now we have of the shot clock, is that our backboards now light up. Like we get a chance to see, we know when that clock expires, whether it's a shot clock or the game clock. It's pretty evident within the room that, should a 3-man crew probably see that? You would think 3 sets of eyes, somebody would have said, no, that was definitely still in the hand. But when you make the call, and if there's not sufficient after meeting, you don't have sufficient evidence, it's kind of like the NFL where it's like the call stands or it's confirmed. What's the difference? Well, confirmed means everybody conferred that it's like, oh yeah, that call was indeed correct. Or if the call stands, there's not enough evidence to prove otherwise, so we have to stand on the call as it was done on the floor. So I think that's kind of what happened Friday night, was that, maybe one of the officials just didn't have the right view. He didn't want to be the one to make the call to spoil the night. So they stuck with what was originally called on the floor.
Yep. And so here's the long and the short of it. Lakeland is now 1-4 in Inland Empire play. A lot of those losses have come to the 5A schools, and then they lost to Lewiston last night by a single point, 49-48. So they're there. They just took the best team in the league wire to wire last night. Okay, focus on the rematch in Rathdrum. Make sure you are, you take care of your business and don't leave it up to the officials, and then use it as a teaching moment and move on from it. Dwelling on it, and they have, moving on from it is a good idea too. So that's kind of, and anybody in the chat, I guess, can put their opinion in, and we'll put it up on the screen also. It's something we had to talk about. It was the story Friday night into Sat all weekend long. It was the story in North Idaho. So of course we have to cover it, and we were there and had the footage. So
there was folks from like Western Washington that are guys that are in high school athletics, they were posting it. So, I've seen it on Twitter, not just from North Idaho. There was guys all over the place posting that play.
Yeah. So, I think we, it is what it is. Unfortunately, it happens sometimes in sports. People make mistakes. Here's Dan Rudolph Jr. Last night's game was wild. Yeah, between Lewiston and Lakeland. The Bengals hold on for the 49-48 victory, and so Lewiston continues to excel. They are 2-0 in Inland Empire League play. They got a lot of IEL games here at the back half of the season. They're 13-1 overall. Lewiston still, the only loss that they have suffered this year was by 3 points to Bonners Ferry in the opening round of the Avista Holiday Tournament. Probably should have been the championship, but yeah, that is what it is.
The Bengal team's legit. I think that, you look at what's in the league right now at the 5A, we certainly know 6A. They've got to play the 6A team still too. So, you're going to have games against Post Falls. You're going to have games against Lake City and Coeur d'Alene. that's not an easy task. If the Bengals, I think if they go 500 in their games against the 6As, if they steal one from Post Falls or steal one from Lake City or from Coeur d'Alene, I still see Lewiston, their max prep ranking is only going to go up from here. I still think they're going to be, if they make the district tournament and make it through the district tournament, they'll be a very nice seed come state tournament time.
Yep, no doubt about it. Okay, so we mentioned Bonners Ferry briefly, the only team that's beaten Lewiston. They continue to roll. They're on a heater. Asher Williams last week sets the new school record for points in a single game. He scored 45. Then he goes out a couple nights later and says, 45 was all right, but let's get 50. They beat Logos, he scores 50 points. I believe that was against the Montana school a couple nights later. And then he continues. He continues it on Monday. They beat Logos 78-60, only 37 points that time. But I mean, Asher Williams is on an all-time heater here.
Points in 3 games.
Yeah, that's pretty legit. So
yeah, no, and like he's a great player, and that's a great team. I look at Bonners Ferry. I mean, I picked them to win state, 4A, and I'm gonna still stand on that one until it changes. But that's a great lineup. I mean, they don't have the depth of the roster like we've talked about, but the starters they've got on the floor. I mean, Blackmore's really good. Abubakari's a nice force inside, takes up a lot of space in the paint, and you can shoot the lights out like Williams. You're gonna be okay. And you got Bateman out there too. So there's some nice pieces around him.
Yep. So yes, it was a good night for Asher Williams a few nights back. Wild night of basketball just in general. I'm just going to kind of hit the highlights of what happened last night. Real quick from Travis in the chat here. He enjoyed Tyler Wood taking down the number 1 in 5A at 98 pounds from that battle for the paddle duel. Yeah, we talked about that at the top of the show, taking out Zach Teal from Lakeland. That was a big victory.
Oh, and he manhandled him too. He manhandled him. That wasn't even close.
Yes. So Lewiston, we talked about it. They beat Lakeland. They outscore the Hawks 15-8 in the fourth quarter. And so Lewiston was trailing heading into that fourth and final frame. Lakeland still has a shot to win it at the buzzer. Doesn't go. So 48-47 win for Lewiston. Timberlake beats Kellogg last night, 58-55. Game-winning bucket from Tyler Engelson with less than 2 minutes to go in that contest. And then they made a free throw to win 58-55. How about this one? Priest River goes to St. Mary's and defeats the Lumberjacks by 10, 54-44. There was a bridge of time between the third and fourth quarters where Priest River outscored St. Mary's like 20-5 and just took control of it. Double-double for Nate Stiffel, 14 points, 10 boards. And so, I kept saying Priest River has looked good. I'm not sure who they've actually, quality of competition and all that. But going to St. Mary's, beating the 9-time district champion Lumberjacks. Okay, you've got my attention.
Well, especially they were down, I believe it was almost 10 at half. So, I mean, they came back and blew the doors off in the second half. So, great win for the Spartans. And, we've taken notice. I mean, we'll go through the North Idaho Nines here in a little bit, but we're taking notice of Priest River. Like, I don't think you can write these people's off as these teams used to be able to face them to where they would be the bottom seed in the tournament because they played a hybrid schedule. This was a few years ago. I mean, they didn't even play a full varsity schedule. So, to see Priest River coming back in and they're, challenging for the league nod, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal for this team. Max
in the chat says it's Priest River's first win over St. Mary since 2011.
It's big. That's
Ryan,
big.
That was 14 years ago.
That is huge.
That's crazy. That's awesome. Way to go, Priest River. And the Priest River girls playing really well as well. So, let's get to your North Idaho 9, Ryan. These are your rankings of the 9 best teams in North Idaho for boys basketball, regardless of classification size. Basically, who's playing the best, who's got the best body of work. Here's your updated North Idaho 9 for this week.
I like Bonners Ferry a whole lot. I had Post Falls one last week. No slight to the Trojans. They didn't do anything wrong. I just like Bonners Ferry, big week for them. Some big wins, especially Asher Williams, 132 points in 3 games. I mean, come on. Like that's some player's stat line for the entire season. Post Falls 2, Lewiston at 3. Lake City 4. I think Lake City, Post Falls. You look at these two. There's a lot left in the line here coming up the next couple weeks for both these teams, plus district play. Cami at 5, Lakeside at 6. Lakeside blew the doors off of Potlatch. I mean, it's up north. It's Cami and Lakeside, in my opinion. I mean, you get to state for state title chances. I look at those two teams. I mean, that's your kind of primo teams right now. Priest River comes in at 7 and Kendrick at 8, and rounding it out, surprising or not, is Clearwater Valley at 9, leading the 1A White Pine Conference.
Yeah, they're 9-0 in 1A White Pine League action. The Rams down there in Kuski. So that is the North Idaho and 9. And then for girls basketball, Ryan, we've had some really good matchups. Here's Kristen Clute in the chat. Go Cubs. And that's exactly where I'm going with girls basketball.
Yeah.
Because
you're gonna like this next clip.
Last night on IdahoSports.com, we were broadcasting the Cami Lapwai girls basketball game. And here's what was on the line. Lapwai had already beaten Cami in Cami earlier in the season. Cami needed to win to basically stay near the top of the pack with Prairie and Lapwai and have a chance at a top 2 seed going into districts. And so Cami trailing 42-40 with 30 seconds to play. And then this happened on IdahoSports.com last night.
That's going to be key here for somebody on Cami besides Emma Krogh to try to get the bucket. They're denying her wherever she goes. And
they have made it tough on Krogh here in the second half. Just 5 points in the second half. She's got the basketball. Swings it to Hunt. 30 seconds left. Hunt up top. Krogh off a screen, fires up a 3. Oh, she got it! Emma Krogh gives him the lead.
Just nails, absolutely nails from Emma Krogh.
Oh, Bill Raftery, that was off the screen and hitting the 3. That was a huge shot.
Yeah, that was Austin Samuels and Tim Silflo on the call for that on IdahoSports.com last night. And I love how in the clip, Tim's like, well, Lapway's got to force somebody besides Krogh to make a play here. And, oh, yeah, they've really done a good job denying her. Only 5 points in the second half. And then Krogh says, yeah, that's nice. I'm going to slip off a screen here and nail it. And so that was the game-winning bucket. Lapwai had a couple of cracks at it on the other end, couldn't convert. And so 43-42 win for Cami. Krogh scores 26 points for the Cubs in the victory. And now those two are virtually tied for second place in the White Pine League standings.
We talked about it, that Cami to be in the conversation, they're going to have to steal a win. And they're going to have to, win the hard way. And they did. They got a big win over Lapwai last night. That's a huge win for that program, for that team. You got players like Emma Krogh. I mean, she's going to carry you places. I think she went off for 44 last week in a game. So yeah, I mean, that she's a microwave. She can heat up quick, and showed it right there around the perimeter with that nice pick and pop 3-pointer. And this Cami teams, they're dangerous. They really are. And that's no slight to Lapwai. Lapwai is really good. We got 3 really good teams in the conference. All 3 of those teams, in my mind, should be in the state tournament. Somebody's going to have to sit at home this year.
Yeah, and so those Prairie is 10-0 in White Pine play. Cami for the moment is 9-2, and in second by half a game. Lapwai is 8-2, but basically you're looking at the loss column here. Cami and Lapwai, each with a loss to each other and a loss to Prairie. So if one of them can beat Prairie on the back half here, that could really make things interesting in the final White Pine standings. Prairie will play Lapwai and Cami to conclude the season on back-to-back nights, Ryan. Next Wednesday at Lapwai, next Thursday at home against Cami. That'll decide the White Pine title right there.
That's that. I mean, you talk about trap games. You come off of that Prairie Lapwai. There's no love lost between those two teams. You can't catch yourself getting up for that game, and then you got to turn around the next night, and you've got a de facto could be a league championship type game. You can't sleepwalk, and that's gonna be big. I mean, this conference is tough. The top 3 teams are really, really good. I mean, if they were all in the state tournament, I would realistically see them all in the top 4 when everything's said and done. But yeah, that's gonna be big. those games, man, it's a murderer's row. And you get into this conference and you get into district play too. I mean, you always see an upset somewhere within district play. So you got to be at your best every night.
Yeah, if you look at the Max Preps rankings right now, Ryan, from North Idaho or from the 2A girls basketball ranks, and yeah, Max Preps isn't the end all be all, but it is what's used to seed the teams at state. In the top 8, because 8 teams get to go to state, 4 of the top 8 are from North Idaho. Prairie's number 2, Lapwai's number 4, and then Kamiah and Lakeside are each 7 and 8. You know who's not in that top 8 at all? Not one team from District 3, and they get 2.5 bids to state this year. Again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just laying out the facts of, okay, this is the reality that we're
fixed. It has to be fixed. I mean, we've got to go based on competitive balance. I'm sorry, like you can't just go based on numbers. You got to go based on production in your games. And I know that you want the participation trophies don't count if you're not winning ball games. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm not on the board, so all I can do is yell to the wind.
Yes,
the old man yelling at clouds.
Yeah, and I mean they get 2.5 bids from District 3 because it is the largest conference in the entire state. I mean, there's like 12 teams, but the question is, if it's 12 just kind of average teams, like can we get a set of human eyes? So I mean, there's got to be, I don't know, some sort of solution. We can talk about it in the summer, maybe. Yeah.
No, I'm 100% there with you that like we watch this and it's not just 2A that this is happening either. This is in every classification. At some point we're running into this problem. So yeah, it's very prevalent right now. When you look at rankings, you start pulling those apart. It's pretty blaring. Like we talk about it in football too, but yeah.
Yep. So yes. Hey, we're getting more invites here, Ryan, in the chat. Here's Bethany from Post Falls. Like Travis Tyler mentioned about Sandpoint, Post Falls Wrestling, senior night, February 5th versus Coeur d'Alene. You're welcome to join too. Kicks off at 6 p.m. Okay, here's what I will say with wrestling and covering more wrestling moving forward. Yeah. Like anything, it takes money to produce these broadcasts and produce what we're doing. And so if there is a sponsor out there that can help fund that for us, we will be able to do more wrestling. Right now, we cover basketball primarily because that is a sport that we cover at the state tournament level as well with audio coverage. It's really hard to do audio for wrestling, and another company has the video rights to state wrestling, and so we just don't do much wrestling. But if that is something you're interested in, you can send me an email, Brandon@IdahoSports.com. It is going to take some sponsors helping produce these though. So
well said, because I would love to see more of that. Yeah, I mean, like especially that Coeur d'Alene duel. That's going to be a tasty matchup next week. It's going to be a really good one.
Yes, and so that's kind of for wrestling fans as well. They say, well, you guys do basketball all the time. That's why, because we do audio broadcasts of state basketball. So it makes sense to do basketball in the regular season. If we ever get the video rights back to state wrestling, of course, that opens up all sorts of opportunities. But until that happens, the reality is to do more wrestling events, it's going to take local sponsors helping out and supporting. Because again, at IdahoSports.com, we don't charge anything to watch the games live. Other companies, they're asking you to pay, and so it's something we want to continue to offer for free. But to do that, we had the same talk last week. I feel like I've given the company pitch every week here on the show.
No, it's good though. It's a good reminder because it does take money for us to show up and produce this, and the equipment and everything else that's involved. There's overhead, and so you can't. It's an art thing you can't get around. But we want to continue to provide things for free in the regular season. I mean, contractually in the postseason, there's a reason why there's a minimal fee, but like for the regular season, like we want grandma, grandpa, aunt and uncle, cousins, friends, and everybody else to watch. How do we have that happen to be able to be free? Is that we have to have sponsors. I mean, it's just plain and simple. That's the way economics works. So if people are interested in doing it, get a hold of you, because we're chomping at the bit to do more stuff.
Yes. So that is the deal there. If you're a local business owner and you want to see more coverage like that, like I said, you can reach out to me, Brandon@IdahoSports.com. All right, let's wrap up with your North Idaho 9 for girls basketball here, Ryan. Not a lot changed from this week to last week, but there were some movements. I mean, for example, Cami jumps up after the win last night, but we'll get to them. I'll let you unveil the list here.
Yeah, so we still got Coeur d'Alene sitting in the one spot. Timberlake at 2. I know Timberlake did drop a close one at Sandpoint. That was kind of one of those ones. I think we said in the pre-show was like, you're allowed one mulligan type of situation. I think that was an oops game. But I mean, Sandpoint gets the win. Coach Love does a great job with that group. We saw them push Lakeland, really tough in the battle for the paddle too. So I still got Timberlake at 2. I still liked all the pieces that are there, including the coaching. Prairie, we've got at 3. I think the Pirates, I mean, what else can they do? Grangeville sitting at 4. Lakeland at 5. I'm super impressed with this Lakeland team. I mean, we finally got to see them in person Friday night. That's a complete unit. They've got size. They've got great guard play, good defense. They rebound. They're unselfish on the offensive side. Like, that's a team that's got some really good pieces that could give team fits if you get in the postseason. Like, this Lakeland team's pretty legit. Cami at 6, which I like the Cubs, and Emma Crow, I think, is just one of the best players in the state of Idaho. Lapwai at 7. Genesee comes in at 8, and Priest River at 9. So both Priest River teams are in the North Idaho 9. Like when has that ever happened? That's awesome. So, I mean, and we're excited that we're going to be up there next weekend, on the 1st. We're going to be up there February broadcasting. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a ton of fun. And I believe so. Let me check my calendar because I want to make sure that we got the dates correct. Yeah, February. So it is next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend on Saturday. We'll have Grangeville at Priest River, both boys and girls games. Absolutely looking forward to that one and showcasing what's going on up there at Priest River High School.
Yep. So next Saturday, Grangeville at Priest River. That's a girls boys doubleheader on IdahoSports.com. Tomorrow night, Lakeside girls are at Wallace. We'll have that game for you on IdahoSports.com. And then this Saturday, doubleheader in Post Falls, Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls, girls, boys. Those are going to be 2 good matchups too. Yeah. And again, that's all on IdahoSports.com. You can click on the game streams tab. And then we have a White Pine League doubleheader this weekend as well. Scaggs, more Cami Cub action. Cami is headed to Kendrick. The boys are going to go first, and then the girls are going to go second. I like that.
I think those are both great matchups too. Those are going to be 2 really good games. So, and it's always fun. I mean, a little home cooking there for, I don't know if it's Ty or Austin that's going to be on the call for that one, but with Coach Silflo. But yeah, 2 really good programs. And those are going to be 2 great games. They really will. They should be a ton of fun. Kendrick's got, I think, some good guard play and size that they can compete with Cami on the floor. I mean, Cami has just been so darn good, though, and what they're able to do on the boys' side. And the girls' game is going to be excellent as well. I think those are going to be 2 really good games.
Yeah. So you mentioned it. We've picked up some new broadcasters this winter. Tim Silflo, former Kendrick boys basketball coach, Austin Samuels, who's a great sports broadcaster from Lewiston, and then Ty Kep, one of the more accomplished Kendrick Tigers in school history, which is saying something because a lot of good athletes have come through the halls there. And so I was putting the schedule together to start the season, and Ty basically requested, he said, you got to give me at least one Cami game because I got to see Clute. I got to see Dave Clute play, one more time in that Cami Cubs uniform. So I said, all right, instead of making you travel all the way to Cami, maybe I can get you when they come through to Kendrick. So yeah, I know Ty is excited to broadcast that. So
it's cool watching him get excited because he's like, he was a student, not so long ago, but he's a fan just of high school sports.
Last year, he was
an athlete last year. He's just a fan of sports. Like he's a junkie, and he's doing such a phenomenal job as a young buck. And I'm glad that we've got him on board. Maybe he'll replace me on this show sometime. Hopefully, I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, you could give him the keys to the car and trust him with whatever he's going to talk about. The guy, all he does is eat, sleep, and breathe high school sports. So it's awesome to have Ty on board with us, and him and Tim do a great job, and Austin's doing a phenomenal job too. So I'm more than excited with all the new folks that we've brought on.
Yep, it's an exciting time at IdahoSports.com. It's an exciting time for North Idaho sports in general. All right, enjoy the competitions this week/weekend, everybody. And hey, one more thing. I know a lot of people are tuning in live here. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, if you could hit that like button. or the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and then share this when it's all said and done. That'll help everybody who wasn't able to tune in live find it a little easier on replay. But we do the show live every Wednesday between 10 and 10:30 a.m. Approximately. So, yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, to the North Idaho Prepcast. For Ryan Scaggs, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.